It's 1 o'clock, so we'll call the Facilities Committee meeting to order for Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. Let me lead us in a word of prayer, please. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for the opportunity we have to help the citizens of Glynn County and to move this Joint Water and Sewer Commission forward. And thank you for all the employees and the dedication they have. And we just pray, Father, that we'd just be good stewards and that we would understand the projects that we have before us and that we would glorify you in everything we say and do. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. There's no one here for public comment, so we'll move to the approval section of the minutes. Minutes from the June 16, 2021 Facilities Committee meeting.
I'll move to approve as submitted.
All in favor? Motion carries 2-0. Contract award priority basin clean and CCT. Mr. Burrs.
Yes, sir. Back when we presented the budget, we presented the 2021 capital projects plan. One of the projects on that list was a sewer line cleaning and televising project that will investigate conveyance line segments on both the mainland and St. Simons Island. This will help address various I&I related issues throughout the system, and these basins were selected as the highest priority basins from the recent master plan update that was completed. We went out for bid in May on this, and bids were received on June the 29th. Southeast Pipe Survey was the apparent low bidder with the total amount of $272,250.15. There is an attached bid tabulation here, and items on the bid tabulation 9 through 20 are as needed. Therefore, it is likely that the project total amount will come in slightly higher than $272,000 as they get to segments that need additional cleaning or have lateral cuts in them that we're not anticipating. So with that in mind, there will be slightly higher charges in this by the time we get done. However, the budgeted amount for this project is $425,000, so it's sufficient room in the budget to handle any overages that come in as a part of the project. This is budgeted in the R&R reserve. We have done considerable amount of work with the Southeast Pipe Survey over the years, and we're comfortable with their work, and the contract time is 240 calendar days.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. Move that the Facilities Committee recommended full commission approve the award of the contract for 2021 priority basin clean and CCTV to Southeast Pipe Survey, Inc. in the amount of $272,250.15.
I second it, but I have a question. You said that items 9 through 20 are extra items that we might not need.
Right.
But then you said the project will probably come in higher than the...
Right, because these are per segment, and we're doing about 71,000 linear feet of pipe, so there's hundreds of segments of pipe that are included in this project. So if we come to a section that has a significant grease ball or a root intrusion into it that has to be cut out of the way, they will charge per segment on top of that to get these in there. Now, there are dollar values there included in this contract that if we were to come to absolutely none of those segments, that the contract would come in lower than the 272. In all likelihood, it's going to come in slightly higher than that just because of the number of segments we're doing here.
So if we have 4 grease balls in one segment, they only get paid for one time.
They only get paid for per segment. That's correct.
That's manhole to manhole.
Manhole to manhole. That's correct.
Well, just a review of it, looks like our low bidder was low in virtually every category, just at a quick glance.
Yes, sir. And including the as-needed items.
Right. On the a la carte items, I mean, they're just low all the way through. So, and are they on the property now? Is why their mobilization is so low?
They're out of Patterson. Isn't that correct, Todd? They're out of Patterson. They did just finish up a small segment in College Park for us. So they're in and out quite frequently with us. And so being out of Patterson, the mobilization is pretty insignificant.
Okay.
Motion and second. All in favor? Motion carries 2-0. Next item is Canal Road Water Main Installation, Contract Award. Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. We have a project to install a 12-inch water main down Glencoe Parkway and Canal Road to loop the system in that area. Currently, we have self-installed about 2,200 linear feet along Glencoe Parkway. We are now waiting on pipe to complete some more self-install. We also have the section down Canal Road that's being put in conjointly with the SPLOST project. However, this section here goes under the back gate of Fletsy. That is the vendor gate and has significant traffic coming in and out of it. So the request, we went out for bid to get 600 linear feet of water main and casing installed along Glencoe Parkway under that back gate so that we don't disrupt traffic flow in and out. We actually bid out 3 options, depending on whether we wanted a casing or the size of the casing, and all of them are 14-inch HDPE carrier pipes, which is a 12-inch water main on the interior diameter. Staff's recommendation is to move forward with option 1, which is a 20-inch casing to be installed as part of this instead of the 24-inch casing. Having that casing there allows us to replace that pipe without having to completely redo everything should it fail, and also gives us a little bit of room for expansion if necessary in the future in that area. We had 2 bidders. The low bidder was TB Landmark Construction, and option 1's total price was $206,890. This project is funded out of project number 704, which has a remaining project budget, including current encumbrances along Canal Road, of $651,610. And TB Landmark is the one that is installing the section down Canal Road as well. So it will be in the same area.
I'll offer the motion. Move that the Facilities Committee recommend to the full commission approve the award of a contract for the Canal Road to Glencoe Parkway Water Main Extension Project to TB Landmark Construction, Inc. in the amount of $206,890.
I second it, and I have a couple of questions. Did Thompson Hutton, when they designed the water line, did they design this?
No, sir. We did the design in-house. Mr. Klein's group did design in-house for this.
But we had some work that was bid on this same project that was bid by TB Landmark.
That's correct.
And it was for them to install some lines, right? Install a portion of this same line.
It'll connect to the same line, correct?
And we're installing some of that line.
We're installing down Glencoe Parkway. The first contract award is the section down Canal Road. So basically, we're going to come to the intersection. They're going to
They're
pick
only
it up
coming down Canal Road because we're already going down Canal Road.
because the force main was already going to be there. So while they're in that area, they're going to go ahead and put the water main in. So this one would be to kind of connect the two across the back gate of Fletsy.
My question is why we did not have this bore in the original bid.
Correct. So this one is, we're going to connect where it's stubbed out with right in front of Moondoggies.
We're stubbed out with what?
In front of Moondoggies Restaurant Pizza Place, right there at the intersection of Canal.
Well, I understand that, but my question is why was it not included in the original bid? TB Landmark's doing the work. The bid that they bid like $4 or $5 million.
Right, that's correct.
We're talking about a change order pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
Why was this not included if we knew it was going to be in there and we were going to have to contract it out? And we just didn't think about it at that time?
We just didn't think about it at that
I
time.
think at that time, we weren't convinced that we were actually going to drill it. I think it was still being considered maybe open cut. But
And with the amount of traffic that's coming into that back gate.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, so it was felt better later on to drill.
Okay.
And I have a general question here. This specifies 600 linear feet of directional drill. Is that just a matter of convenience to connect from the intersection there at Canal and go all the way under the
That's correct.
entrance to the back gate?
That's
there?
correct. The back gate is not 600 feet wide, so it will be,
Okay.
be a little further than that for convenience, yes, sir, while they're in there.
So logistically and from a difficulty, it's better to go ahead and do one drill for that length instead of drill a short area, open cut, and then drill another one.
They'll set the rig up once to shoot the 600 probably, right?
Right, there were some storm crossings and whatnot that were conveniently in the alignment, so It did, yeah, it makes sense. Now, we did go ahead and just, I believe you recall, several years ago, about 2 years ago now, we did go ahead and go underneath the canal in cooperation with the county project that did the widening of the bridge over the county. So that's actually the connection point where we're going out one side there, and then there's a gap from there and on the other side of the county.
Okay.
And we got 600 feet of casing, but then we got 600 feet of carrier pipe. So how are we going to connect it? The casing, the carrier pipe's not extending past the casing under this contract?
There'll be a little trimming of the casing.
And like Commissioner Duncan mentioned, 600 feet, we're casing the whole route there.
It was staff's consensus. It was decided to case the whole line of force main. There was an issue with the water main or the carrier pipe within the casing. There'd be no issue with it blowing out.
Yeah, I understand that underneath the roadway, but I just questioned the roadway might be 75 feet, 100 feet at the most. We're paying for 500 more feet of bore, which is $145 or whatever.
Correct. One option would have been to not case it. Of course, that is an option. I believe it was did. At the risk, possibly, of there being an issue with the entrance at some point in time.
Yeah, I can understand, again, the casing going under a major entrance into the facility there. The other area that's pretty much on the right-of-way, again, I don't mean to go to solution space and to backtrack on some engineering decisions, but I would just offer caution that, we put this stuff in all the time on the right-of-way, and I would suggest that we scrutinize those preferences when we use the terms just in case we have a problem. It ought to be operationally driven based on cost and efficiency of the network.
I agree with you, sir.
Okay. That's all I have, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion second, all in favor? Motion carries 2-0. Next item is contract award for Dunbar Creek Water Pollution Control Facility Engineering.
Yes, sir. Back in 2019, we went for RFP for engineering services for rehabs for both Academy Creek and Dunbar Creek water pollution control facilities. At the time, after bringing it to the board, it was decided to only move forward with the Academy Creek engineering. Now that the Academy Creek engineering is the actual construction project is underway and going very well, staff is prepared to move forward with the design of the improvements to Dunbar Creek. The hope would be that design of these improvements would be completed soon in accordance with the completion of the Academy Creek construction project, so that hopefully we can start that one soon after, so we don't have both of them under construction at the same time. At the time of the original RFP, Goodwin Mills Kaywood was the highest scoring firm, and to date, their design and construction oversight at Academy Creek has been satisfactory. The project was designed, bid, and came in below the estimated construction cost. We talked at the last meeting about the proposed scope at the Dunbar Creek Rehab. Several items included here: influent splitter box, aeration system improvements, DO control systems, potential design of a clarifier, UV system improvements, filtration improvements, odor control improvements, installation of a reuse system, roadway improvements to change the front entrance to the plant to off of Sea Island Road, permitting as required for this, bid phase services, and construction administration. They have submitted an attached schedule with their proposal that would be completed in 270 days, and that includes a 60-day window for permitting that, if is not used, would be completed in much less than 270 days. Task 11 and 12 will run concurrent with the bidding and construction. At the time, estimated construction is 365 days. The attached proposal totals $790,000. $431,000 of that's for design and bidding, and $359,000 is for construction management services and inspections. Staff has been satisfied with the quality of work performed by Goodwin Mills Cablewood at Academy Creek. We're familiar with the individuals that are proposed to perform the design and the construction inspection on this site, and the cost proposal is in line with expectations for the scope provided. This project would be funded, the engineering portion, out of the 2021 capital projects plan. It has an approved amount of $450,000, which does cover the design work for this project. The additional $359,000 for construction management would be encumbered at the time of construction award.
Before we make a motion, I want to discuss this a little bit. Right now, we're concerned with, first off, getting enough bidders to bid a job, especially plant work. And we have a contractor at Academy Creek who's expressed interest in a design build or some other type of method of moving the crew right over to Dunbar. And I think, Andrew, I think you need to outline to Commissioner Duncan and myself the other options for us that we might want to, instead of doing this, is to get a proposal from Ruby Collins and maybe a couple of other construction firms on a design build or something like that, and then let them use the engineering firm to do whatever the engineer needs to do to provide. That way the contractor can go ahead and get started within 2 months rather than we take bids in 9 months.
What we've been considering as far as an alternative delivery method to the design, bid, build, is something our construction management at that process was goes out for Seymour firms. Those contractors would take a look at that, and we would get proposals. That included 2 projects. Include pre-construction services, which is the amount of time and effort that the contractor selected would actually put in to help, not help design, but deal with constructability concerns and offer guidance during the design process on how to best move forward, and also can talk about what they've done in the past and different products they've installed. And then there would be a percentage basis that they would propose at that point for their percentage of construction markup at that time. We can also do what's called a design bid process, progressive or fixed design bid process. If we did that, what we would likely do would be not move forward with this, and we would go out for a combined team of contractor and engineer at one time, and we would select them.
But we've already got proposals for the equipment we're going to have on this project.
For majority of it, yes, sir.
So if we provided that to, say, Ruby Collins and a couple other contractors, and having this from Goodwin Mills and Cablewood, they should be able to give us a pretty good price.
Mm-hmm. I expect they would, yes, sir.
That way we could get a contractor, because some of the stuff on that project does not require any engineering, that we could get started right away.
Would allow them to certainly get started quicker on the more maintenance-related activities that need to be, or replacement activities that need to be completed. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Duncan, you've been a construction manager before, so you tell me how you feel about that.
Well, I've had great success with projects much larger than this to be able to design and construct in 2 years. And I think the scale of this project really lends itself, Andrew, to a design build option, even if Goodwin Mills wound up being on that team. I think that would be very beneficial for whoever the contractor is that puts together their team, because I think we should be able to have this thing operational from the time the kickoff construction, break ground, in 2 years, with engineering included. I've seen that done on much larger scales before. I've been engaged in power plant construction where we would build a combined cycle gas-fired power plant with 3 units in it in 24 months. that after permitting and all that, but from actual groundbreaking till ribbon cutting was 24 months, and I think we should easily be able to do that on this.
You have a meeting with Ruby Collins on Friday.
Yes, sir.
Could you talk with them at that time and see, and let's come up with kind of a scope?
Sure.
What this should be?
Absolutely. Be happy to do that.
And we could always,
And I think, Chairman, for this particular item, a suggestion is we defer any action on this until our next meeting. Give Andrew a chance to chat with a prime contractor locally to see if there's an opportunity there, and then we can make a decision next month.
Sounds good.
In that case, I'll make the motion that we defer action on item 4 until a date sure, being the next facilities meeting the month of August.
a second. All in favor? Motion carries. Next item is item 5, change order number 1, Splice 2016 North Mainland Phase 3 Force Main. Mr. Burris?
Yes, sir. Back in February, we awarded a contract to TB Landmark Construction for the installation of the Splice North Mainland Force Main portion from Pump Station 4110 on Harry Driggers all the way down to connect to an existing force main on Canal Road, as well as gravity installation along Ogden Drive, and the aforementioned water main from the previous discussion. Again, the water main is not funded by SPLOST proceeds. The total contract amount was $4,663,123, with a notice to proceed date of April 1st and a contract duration of 330 days. Since the time the bids were received in January and contract award in February, there's been significant disruption in both the PVC and HDPE pipe supply chain. TB Landmark was able to order the necessary PVC pipe before incurring significant price changes. However, delivery times have been extended, and that is something we are dealing with internally as well. For the necessary HDPE pipe for this project, the contractor has presented substantial documentation from suppliers who have increased prices substantially since the quote date, and many of these suppliers are only holding quotes for 3 to 5 days instead of the traditional 30 or 60 days. They're declaring force majeure and have either withdrawn quotes or have just issued price increases across the board. This is because of a shortage of resin necessary to produce HDPE piping. While TB Landmark was able to get the necessary piping delivered, they have incurred significant increase in cost due to the force majeure declarations. Due to the increase in the piping cost, as well as the delay in PVC piping delivery, they have requested a change order to the original contract in the amount of $168,801.82 and a time extension of 110 calendar days. The contractor has stated and provided documentation that this cost increase is solely due to the cost from the supplier and does not include any markup from the contractor. If this change order is awarded, the new total contract price would be $4,831,924.82 with a total contract time of 440 days. That would move contractual completion to June 15th of 2022. Our engineer of record, Thomas & Hutton, has reviewed this request and finds it acceptable as these items were outside of the control of the contractor. We've went back and forth on this for a couple of months. However, staff is comfortable recommending that we move forward with this change order as presented for both $168,801.82 and the aforementioned time extension of 110 days.
Motion.
I'll offer the motion. I'll move that Facilities Committee recommend approval of change order number 1 to the Splice North Mainland Phase 3 Force Main Project to TB Landmark Construction, Inc. to increase the contract amount by $168,801.82 and a contract time extension by 110 consecutive calendar days.
I second it, and I have a couple of questions. First off, the increases because of the rising, getting the rising for the HDPE pipe.
That's correct.
We also bid it with the PVC force main.
That's correct.
Directional boring, what's the terminology for that pipe?
Fusible PVC, yes, sir.
Fusible PVC. And was that less expensive than the HDPE, or was it was more expensive? Did it,
As late as yesterday at the conference, talking with fusible PVC people of Aegeon, they're having material procurement issues as well as everybody else.
There was not a substantial increase or decrease that I recall in the fusible
Likewise, yeah.
versus the HDPE, but the only reason we've got HDPE pipe on the ground now along Canal Road is because they went ahead and ordered this pipe. The PVC, we're still waiting on the standard PVC force main pipe we're waiting on, and if we had waited and ordered the fusible, we may be looking at September, October before we got pipe at this point.
all right. And the other thing, is the contractor working now on the project?
Contractor has staked,
Good updates. Yes,
But he has started work?
they haven't started work on the actual pipe install yet.
Not correct. It's all qualified or qualified started work, but we're in motion. Definitely noticeable motion since that.
And he's made a request on a change at Ogden, and what's the status of that?
I'm sorry.
The
Ogden change?
Ogden change, what's the status of what?
Ogden change.
what's
We're pursuing easements options.
Down Ogden?
Correct. Give us
Okay.
an option on Ogden, on the routing. And hopefully if that's going to go well, we'll have a solution. Otherwise, we're still working with the contractor to install it as bid if that falls through. So we're really diligently working to try to get this easement.
We didn't want to combine the two issues with
Right.
the pipe pricing and then the potential scope change.
That is very visible in the distance.
Yes.
That one keeps us up.
But the contractor feels comfortable with the 440 days
Yes, sir.
on the time extension if we pass this change order tomorrow and full meeting. at the
That's
full meeting.
correct. Yes, sir.
Just a question here on the 110 days. Did 110 days actually elapse from the time they started the project, that is, notice to proceed and purchase, till actual receipt of the pipe?
They still do not have all of the PVC pipe as of date today. And the contracted notice to proceed date was April 1st, so we're past 110 days currently. So they feel like they can make up ground once they get the pipe here. But no, there has actually been more than 110 days waiting on pipe from when they ordered it.
Okay. Were they engaged in any productive work waiting on the pipe?
Received deliveries of the materials, layout, they had the surveyors here working.
Okay.
They have, their open cut crew is on standby, ready to mobilize.
As soon as the pipe hits the ground, they're ready to go.
Okay.
And, as far as pipe being installed, unfortunately, no pipe's been installed yet. There's been a lot of pre-construction, I guess, walking, there's a couple, I'll talk about that in the report, but some of the details of construction, but no pipe in the ground yet. No pipe in the ground.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion second. All in favor? Motion carries 2-0. We'll move to the discussion section, project list for potential bond issuance. Mr. Burrows?
Sir, if you'll recall, the last couple of meetings we had, one at the Finance Committee and then the last full commission meeting, we've been discussing a potential bond issuance to fund the SPLOST projects that were not funded via the SPLOST vote. And so at the last meeting, this will be discussed at Finance as well, but Commissioner Stevens requested we review those projects before we consider moving forward with any bond issuances. So these were the projects that were included on the SPLOST 7 list. We had CIPP, cured in place piping of gravity sewers. The contract that was recommended to move to the full commission today for the clean and televising of lines. Those sections that are found in need of work will be included in the CIPP of gravity sewers on this money that we're talking about here. So essentially, by the time they get in and they'll go through and inspect, and they'll give us a structural rating of the pipe on a 1 to 5 scale, based off the defects, number of defects and types of defects. We would then take the highest priority pipes of those basins that need to be rehabbed and go in and do trenchless rehab of the majority of those pipes at that time. Some may have to be open cut, but the majority of them likely will be able to be trenchlessly rehabbed. We just talked about the Dunbar Creek rehab and the scope of that potential project. Transite water main replacements. We have transite water mains in some of our older neighborhoods that have significant break histories exceeding national averages. The 4 neighborhoods we're discussing, focusing some of this money is Beverly Shores, College Park, Fairway Oaks, and Waverly Pines. Those are all kind of along the Alabama corridor. Minor in-house engineering is required on these projects. This would not be in any way to replace all the pipes in these neighborhoods. We would replace the pipes with the significant break history in those neighborhoods. It's kind of a point of reference, a lot of the driver of the Magnolia Park project that's currently going on was replacing those transite mains, and so the whole neighborhood in Magnolia Park is about a $1.8 million expense, so we obviously can't do 4 whole neighborhoods for the money here, but we can make a large dent in some of those lines and reduce some of our water loss.
Yeah, all of these items are familiar, or I should say this committee has a great familiarity with them. And what I wanted to jump to is Dunbar Creek rehab and the elevated storage tank. Those are the only 2 that would require some outside engineering support.
That's correct.
Everything else will be done by staff and operations.
That's correct. ARCO and Community Road, those have had outside engineering, but it is complete, and those are at EPD for review now. So essentially, if we move forward with any sort of bond issuance or any type of funding mechanism for these projects, those 2 projects could be let very soon thereafter, assuming we get approval from EPD.
So
now, I will caution that this list was put together last year, and as we just noticed with the pricing on the pipe, that things have gotten more expensive. So those budget numbers may have to shift a little bit on a couple of these projects, and so some of these are scalable projects. For example, the transite water main replacement and the CIPP project, those are scalable if some of the other projects have overruns.
Sure, understood. And I just wanted to make the point is that we have a book of work ready to go whenever the funding is available, that we can apply that funding quickly. And in the meantime, we would do the engineering. We already talked about a possible design build on Dunbar Creek rehab, and then of course the elevated storage tank. Forgive me if I'm oversimplifying it, but those are pretty much cookie cutter after you get the soils engineering done. So it's not long lead time on engineering. So my thoughts is that we could have this entire suite of work ready to go in a matter of months, 100% in terms of being shovel ready, essentially.
Absolutely no reason all of these should be shovel ready by next summer, I would say.
Yep.
I think that's realistic.
Yep.
Majority of them will be shovel ready before then, but
Right.
all of them should be shovel ready by next summer.
Let me ask you about the transite water main replacements. How much, in Magnolia Park, how much of that line was actually transite? Do we know?
I think final count, they're on the final street now, 85%,
85% was transite?
The first street we went in, I forget the exact name of that street at this time, but it was all ductile, and so we were getting worried that we were replacing a bunch of ductile pipe instead of transite pipe. But when we got off that first street, it turned transite like the GIS said it was.
Okay. And so we're pretty sure that most of these locations are transite pipe in the whole subdivisions.
The majority of those subdivisions are transite piping. Our distribution crews can outline a number of bands that they've put on these pipes, so they've actually seen the majority of these pipes over time.
Okay. We've talked about Dunbar, and we know, has the 2 engineers that designed ARCO and Community Road, have they given us an updated construction cost estimate?
Do have an updated estimate on both of those. Community is pretty close to the 2.5 that was originally estimated. The most recent update on the ARCO project was around $4 million, but that was completed 2 months ago. So hopefully by the time these things go out for bid, pipe pricing will have came back down to something more rational. honestly, at this point, we're somewhat at the mercy of the supply chain on pipe pricing.
If we have a new price of $4 million, it seems like we ought to put that in here now. That's what-
Right, this was just what was presented at the spot
Okay,
time.
okay, all right.
Yeah, overall, I don't really have a concern with the amounts. I think we're going to have some puts and takes
Yep.
along the way. And the unit price activity we frankly just have lower number of units.
The elevated tank, whether it's going to be at exit 42 or at New Hope Plantation or wherever it's going to be, I think we need to start, and at the conference, there was some tank manufacturers. CBI, I met with them, and they already knew about a tank at New Hope. Because the guy had worked with us in the past. I don't know where he got that information, but they'd be glad to send us a brochure of the tanks, and I think the commission would like to look at the different type of tanks, because they have the golf ball tanks, the composite tanks, and the leg tanks. They don't make the leg tanks, but so we can decide what we want that tank to look like. And then once we know that, like Commissioner Duncan said, they can give us a preliminary cost estimate, because we'll know what the overflow elevation is going to be, and depending on what the soil is, that's the only thing that might change the cost estimate. So this is a good list.
Well, we told everybody when we were going out for SPLOST vote, these were necessary projects. They're still necessary projects, and if we're able to get these funded, we've got plenty of other necessary projects to keep going, so we need to keep making progress.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. Next is the Water Pollution Control Plant Flows Report.
Yes, sir. We have some quite low numbers on our flow totals for the month. Some of that obviously due to what prior to Hurricane Elsa showing up was a lack of rain. But we've also done quite a lot of I&I rehab work over the past couple of years. So at Academy Creek, our monthly effluent flow was down to 5.1 MGD. If you look at the average over the past 18 months, it's been 6.9 MGD. So significant decrease in the flow rate there due to the lack of rainfall and the I&I work that has been completed. We did have some pretty high BOD and TSS as a result of that. Some of that is when you have very little rainfall and then you get a day where you get some rainfall and it kind of blows everything down the line. You'll have 1 or 2 days where the influent numbers jump up really high and the averages kind of make seem a little high for the month, but that was what that was. Effluent did pretty well there at Academy Creek for the month. Everything within permit. 98% both BOD and TSS removal. You'll notice the sludge was high for the 3rd consecutive month. We have since rectified the issue with the dryer, so she is back running. So hopefully for the month of July, that will return back closer to the 70 tons per month that was there previously. So all in all, though, if you look at our flow chart, we are down for the year overall pretty consistently. Only one month higher this year compared to last year. So our efforts in reducing the I&I getting to the facility seem to be going pretty well. I will say that Hurricane Elsa came through the other day. We did incur quite a lot of flow that night. So the numbers will be higher when we see them for the July report.
On this, the BOD and suspended solids, how often do they take those samples?
5 days a week.
5 days a week. So these are averages for the whole month?
That's correct.
And what was the highest number then?
There were one day with, don't quote me on numbers exactly, it was 700 to 800 on the BOD, which seems like it was probably a bad sample, but once you get the sample, you have to include it.
A BOD, that's a test that takes 4 or 5 days to
5
get the
days.
results.
5 days to get the
And
results.
solids, they can do that. They put it in the oven and they measure it.
Solids they can have in a couple hours.
That just seems like a real big increase.
It is. Typical domestic waste should be around 250 BOD and 200 to 250 TSS.
Where did the rest of it come from?
We have some high-strength waste from some of our industrial customers. I don't know if we happen to have a sample that was a little more weighted towards them than normal, but typically you would not expect to see numbers higher than 300 even in dry months. Over on Dunbar Creek, the flows were not down, but they did maintain, considering the amount of activity on the island with the summer tourist season. The plant handled very well. You see there the more traditional BOD and TSS numbers, as I was just mentioning. On the effluent there at Dunbar Creek, responded very well. If you recall, we're down to one basin there, so because of the work that staff has been doing. But you don't really see any difference in the treatment quality leaving that facility with only the one basin running instead of both basins. Still getting 99% removal of BOD and TSS from that facility. That plant's being operated very effectively and has been in line where we've been sitting at for the past couple of years. And down at Southport, flow was pretty consistent as well down there. Did see a little bit more rain on the rain gauge down at Southport than we did see at the other two parts of the county, and that can happen from time to time. Did have a bit of a grease issue, oil issue showing up at Southport towards the end of the month, beginning of July, but that has since been corrected. But all in all, the plant down there, again, being operated very successfully by staff with nearly 97% removal of the BOD and TSS, and of course, when you have less coming in, it's harder to get those higher percentages going out. But the flow, again, highly consistent with where we were at this time last year at the plant. So plenty of capacity down there for our customers to utilize.
Tell me about Southport, because I think we've had Angela being the operator there, because we've had an employee that has heart issues or something.
That's correct. We've had two employees that have been out for extended periods that are both operators. One of them has since rejoined us. One of them has not. So our pretreatment coordinator, Miss Angela Walker, has been the on-site operator at Southport. She is a Class 1 licensed wastewater operator, so we're utilizing her skill sets in different ways. She's still able to keep track of what she's doing on the compliance side, but maintaining the plant there at exit 29. So we are looking for two operators, if anyone knows anyone, or as someone that would like to be a wastewater operator. We've got tremendous opportunities for them here at the Joint Water and Sewer Commission.
Well, it's good to cross-trained and everything. We got capabilities doing that.
Absolutely. Miss Angela has got many skills, and she stays in the background a lot of times on the pretreatment side, but she's a real asset for us.
And did the one fellow have open heart surgery?
He had a heart condition that had to be corrected, yes, sir. I don't know exactly the details, but yes, sir, it's my understanding.
I'm glad we got people who can step in like that.
Absolutely. Miss Angela seemed to enjoy herself up in Savannah the last couple of days, chatting with some of our fellow water professionals.
Capital Projects Report, Mr. Klein and Mr. Burris.
All right, Commissioners, thank you again for the opportunity to show progress on our capital projects. You should have the handouts there in your packets. I'll do my best to cover the high points and move along quickly. Okay, Project 702, which is phase 2 of our North Mainland reroute project, pump station upgrades. These pictures here of a pump station 4035. Now that it's on bypass and has been on bypass, you can see down inside the dry pit, or excuse me, in the wet well side of the wet well dry pit configuration. That's what this top right picture is. And then actually down middle left is there inside of the dry pit section. That wall with
The upper right is the wet well.
Correct, yes, sir. And so maybe kind of tough to see, but you can see daylight up here, so that's obviously ground surface. And you come down a flight of stairs to a landing, and there's a walkway right here. And then below that walkway is the actual holding area, the actual volume of the wet well with the gravity sewer.
And they have baffle walls in there.
There are, once upon a time, there were baffle walls, so I'll clarify that. Now that it's dried up and we can get in there and look around and everything like that, at some point in time, it was originally constructed with baffle walls. There's actually a divert wall in there now that splits the flow left and right. So it's a wing wall of type of.
No baffle walls.
No baffle walls, correct. And so.
So we didn't know that when we took bids on it.
We did. So that was a point of discussion at the last project meeting last week, because it affected demo,
Yeah.
Portion of the demo work is to address the baffle walls and whatnot. And engineers evaluating right now whether to keep the wing wall in there, remove it, rehab it. What are we going to do with that? So.
Are we going to keep all the handrails in the wet well and everything like we have right there in that walkway?
We likely would. It needs, at a minimum, a pressure wash.
Yeah,
paint.
and those are concrete steps?
Concrete steps. So if you can see some of the pictures, maybe I can zoom in just a little bit. You can see some of the deterioration.
Did you take these pictures?
These are actually Jason's pictures. I've got some pictures I can pull up that I took myself.
Have you been down there?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. It's not too
We
bad.
can't seem to get him go down in there when it's full of water.
And do we have money in the contract to repair the concrete on those?
That was pulled out of the original contract.
Pulled out of the original contract to reduce costs. And so we've actually solicited one of our current contractors that does lining work to give us some budget pricing on some of the repair work and lining. What it would take to do that, to get this looking better, in a better shape. The wing walls down here on the right-hand side, there's some concrete missing, this is falling, that type of thing off there. So need a little bit of rebuilding. But
We haven't asked Southern Civil to give us a price for rehabbing it like we originally had it bid?
their recommendation actually, and they really encouraged us, just to go direct with our lining contractor and reach out to them. They said they've got it on bypass. They would be more willing to work with us to bring in our own contractor separately to do that work.
So we're going to be lining it rather than repairing the concrete?
Lining, or another option would be after you pressure wash it, descale it, possibly a raven epoxy, something like that.
Because I'm concerned if there's much deterioration of the concrete, about the strength of it if we don't repair the concrete versus just line it.
Exactly. So the structures like the wing wall that has been submerged down in the water is probably in the poorest shape. Structurally, the concrete looks to be in pretty good shape, surprisingly. The walls and everything you can see in here and all that. The paint, it's been painted, obviously, been maintained a little bit throughout the years.
Mhm.
Paint needs to be redone.
Oh, we are gas proofing that though in the contract?
Correct.
Okay.
So, at minimum, I would say it needs painting, epoxy type painting, heavy cleaning. Possibly if we keep some of the structures that are down in the wet well or down in the flow line.
Okay.
Calcium in there or some kind of.
Has the contractor offered a credit for not having to demo as much as they thought?
We would seek a credit. This demo is free too. Yes, we would.
Well, they ought to finish early.
Yeah,
They should. They should. So, Commissioner Duncan, to your point there on the time, so that was another main topic of discussion last week, was they're hitting some materials issues. Station's been demoed pretty much as far as they can get it. They're ready to start replumbing it. Electrical conduits, all that kind of stuff. They're having trouble getting their conduits, basic materials even.
When is the completion date right now?
This is, let's see.
Because really we won't have any more sewer coming to this until the other project's finished anyway.
Right. January, first of the year, so first quarter.
Well, and their original plan was to completely rehab 4035 and then move to 4036, but they're going to have them both demoed simultaneously while they're waiting on parts.
So 4035 is the one upstream?
4035 is the one downstream.
Okay.
Right there.
By the cemetery, close to the cemetery, okay.
So,
My recommendation to the contractor was make sure the bottom one pumps before the top one gets turned on.
So this is 4035 we're looking at, that's the bottom one.
That's correct.
correct, that's 35, right. It's bottom of 35. So in 36, what they're doing with it right now is prepping it for possibly putting it on bypass as well. This is where it says overlapping the projects, where before one was going to be complete before moving to the next. Now they're going to.
Were both of those stations put in the same time?
They're both of the same era. They're both 60s, middle 60s.
Okay.
Okay. Now to the force main portion of that project. We were talking a little bit earlier about it. Materials are all on site, and as early as, or as recent as about 20 minutes ago, I got a message from our contractor. They're just waiting on one last load of the PVC pipe. And this is how the pipe's been coming in, literally like 6 sticks at a time and things like that. It's coming in very small. I think the suppliers are grabbing it from wherever they can. And so one last load of the 12-inch, and that is the 12-inch, which is the direct bury, or the open cut bury up on the northern side. And all fittings, so far, it looks like all fittings are in place or arrived. They are utilizing our Canal Road, we call it Canal Road well site for a secure storage staging area, at least it's fenced in. And routing layout has been done, all the offset stakes and all that. If you go out there to Harry Driggers, you'll see them. And hopefully nobody is pulling those up.
Are they getting the pipe from different manufacturers too?
They're getting it from wherever they can get it. Yes, sir.
So, you know, manufacturers, they have lot numbers or whatever. And if you have a defective pipe, and so we're going to need to spend more time making sure where these came from, just in case we got a problem.
So, great point. Paperwork's going to be critical on this for delivery tickets and whatnot. Now, every piece of pipe is going to have a code on it that we'll be able to trace back to the lots, manufacturer, that type of thing, whether it's JM Eagle or, you know, whoever. We'll be able to do that if there's an issue.
So they're buying all the pipe from the same supplier, but he's just getting it from different manufacturers?
They're using Lucas Ferguson, I think it's out of Jacksonville.
So Ferguson should be able to work with the contractor so he can tell us where
We'll have all that information.
different stuff is on the as-built, so we got it. So in case we have a problem, we know it's only probably going to be in this area.
That's a good point. That's something maybe, like you said, put on the as-bills.
Great idea. But yes, even our own internal projects, we're waiting on 3,000 feet of PVC, and we're getting it about 200 feet at a time. So somewhat frustrating. Sometimes just like, well, just bunch it all together and take it all to one person and then bring me all mine at one time. But talking with people this week at the GAWP conference, everybody seems to be getting it 200 feet at a time right now.
They're doing that to try to divvy a little bit to
be fair to everybody, yeah.
So last project meeting we had last week was out on site, and one addition that we're getting a price from our drilling contractor to do is right there at the area of Fox Run. There's a portion of property south of Fox Run, south of Fox Run, that is looking to connect into the system of new development. It's going through the review process right now, and we're working on getting the pricing from
To go under the road.
contractor to go ahead and shoot a line underneath to manifold that station in 4111. It's right there, Country Walk Station. So only makes sense to do that right now. TB's, I believe, going to give us a good price on that. The good thing about it, the machine will already be right there. They'll practically almost have to just rotate it 90 degrees and go underneath and shoot it the other direction. So makes sense to do that right now. We'll come back with the pricing as soon as we get that in hand. Right there in Fox Run, now this is an area also that's slated for open cut, and they've got a lot of nice landscaping through there, and a very nice entrance road. So one thing we did ask TB Landmark, our contractor, at no additional cost to owner, would you possibly be able to drill this underneath the this
And maintaining grade.
developed entrance to Fox Run as well? And they seem receptive to that because they don't want to be mixed up in that any more than we do. So, of course, we'll. That was an area of discussion during the design phase of this. We had a lot of input on. And so if they come back with that, we'll definitely present that. So something to think about. We're always trying to keep the residents in mind when we're doing these projects. Let's see. Next project, 4003. Good stuff to report on 4003. We just had a project meeting, bi-weekly update this morning out there with them. And I'll quote one of our commissioners that says, we seem to be on the glide path now to completion. We've come across at the very top. All right, so the wet well issue was the big issue. That's where they had the leaks and all that. But the good news with that is the leaks seem to be, for the most part, grouted and stopped. We've actually got the welder coming in tomorrow to weld the flanges on for the 3 suction pipes. They're going to have their grouting guy there on standby, their coring guy there on standby. I expect that wet well to be sealed and done by the end of the week. So once that's done, there's nothing holding them back from finishing the pump installs, everything else inside the building, and finishing out. They're saying 4 weeks. I'm saying 6 weeks, probably. But we're pushing them really hard to get to substantial completion, getting that station functional. It's a big thing. The existing gravity is tied into now. Everything's covered. You can see the site now looks a lot different. It's even cleaned up way more than it is now. It looks,
Yeah.
It's looking good.
I was by there Friday, I didn't go inside or anything, but just rode around the site. And they've advanced it.
Yeah. So you can see one of his outriggers out here. He's a very expensive person to keep on site with that piece of equipment, that big crane. And what you can't see is over here, well, yeah, the 3 bypass pumps on K Street.
Yeah.
Those guys are pricey to keep on site too. They've got every incentive to get the job done with. And we're pushing to substantial.
Speaking with staff, the contractor had completed a considerable amount of electrical work in the past week and a half compared to where they were at as well.
On this, some of this, it looks like we're encroaching on some of Brunswick's property that we wanted to get additional property from them. Have we gotten that property from them?
No, sir, we haven't. So good point. That's the next thing I was going to touch on is actually, so 341 out here, Brunswick Marina and Waterfront right here. North, south. Our site actually, what you see here as far as disturbed area, about where this bypass line is our, wait,
You got-
excuse me,
yeah.
here, right here, north, south. Wait.
That's
where-
K Street on the left.
Yeah. K Street, I'm not sure. That's K Street.
That's
I'm
K
sorry,
Street.
guys. Yeah, thank you. K Street out here, 341 Marina out here. Here it is. About right here is the property line. This, we were allowed to use from the forest company.
From the forest company?
Yes, sir.
So they own that.
They own that, so they were nice enough to allow us to use that for.
So the alley, they own the other side of the alley then?
Yeah.
The alley goes from about the manhole here. That's about, well, here's the property line, the fence runs about like this. And this is alleyway here. It runs out to K Street.
And there may be some interest from the adjacent property owner to potentially putting a driveway across the southwest side of our property coming in off of K Street for some of their interest there. So they allowed us to use their property for future considerations.
So that's K Street up to the left, that's not 341?
I misspoke, right?
That's 340, that's K Street?
Yes, sir. 341 is down here.
So I thought that was Brunswick's property, perpendicular to K Street.
The
Parallel with
4003
K Street.
site is currently all still City of Brunswick property. That property has not been deeded to us yet. Talking with the city, we were going to finish the project and then get the official bounds of what the pump station site was and then handle that deeding over from the city.
I think we need to do it before we put the fence up. So we need to figure out what our property limits are. But you said the forest company, a forest company owned that land rather than the City of Brunswick?
The Taurus group owns this piece over here. And they own it here, I guess, but up to about right here. So our site, what'll be our site, is actually a lot smaller than this disturbed area you see.
What about the Newcastle frontage property? Do we know who owns that?
The city.
Oh, the city.
City, yeah.
Okay.
And the Newcastle frontage is where they've been discussing with us getting an access easement across that
Okay,
frontage.
okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense really for the city to hang on to it.
Right.
Because if we need to go in there and work on it in the future, we need some land
Right,
around it.
absolutely.
Right. It'd be nice to have that whole site. We try not to let Kirk see that, to look at it too. He'll want to hang on to it. He understands. We got to give it back.
Even if we need to get some from Taurus, it'd be good maybe,
We can work, we'll work through.
because he's
what
not
is-
going to use it for nothing probably.
We'll work through with all property owners out there what may be the most advantageous final setup.
I got to say, the neighbors have been great. I mean, really no complaints.
Todd has made great friends with the dog.
Oh, yeah, that's my puppy. Yeah, talked to him this morning. But, yeah, neighbors have been great, really have been great. Be nice to do something nice for them once
Yes.
we're done out there. To think
We
about
can
that.
eliminate the odor.
Yes, that's going to be a big help. That'll be a big
That's a
help.
good point, because, yeah, that's an odor control tower right
Right.
here, right in their backyard, so.
Is that sitting straight up now?
Yes,
It
sir.
is, yes, sir. It's all set up. It's, they plumbed in the suction pipe for it,
Good.
and it's all plumbed into the new wet well. It's essentially ready for a startup as soon as the electrical's done inside the building. Okay, moving along. Let's see. Okay, we talked before a little bit about the Glencoe project and the directional drill that was discussed. This gives you a little bit of perspective for what that is. So here's the Fletzy back gate entrance right here. And this is a little further towards the Glencoe intersection, Glencoe Canal Road intersection. There's actually another back gate back here that goes kind of directly to their driving area. So this drill will actually cover both of those.
yeah.
It's kind of one of the length turned into what it was. You can see the other entrance in there. It's back towards the business. Back towards the canal. That's where the length of it developed, but anyway, I know distribution is really concerned about having that water line underneath those entrances, even though that one appears to not really be used very much, but.
The commercial gate is used frequently.
Yes, yes. So, and that will tie into existing stub outs that we've, for construction projects we've already completed. Okay, Magnolia is, as far as the water, is coming to a close, to a good finish out there. On Terra Lane, matter of fact, this week, they should have been on, yeah, there's no reason they shouldn't have finished up. I got to get an update. I know Jason's been at the conference too. But we'll do a drive-through out there and check it out. I wouldn't be surprised if this week or next they finish up the complete water install on Terra. That'll be all the mains in the ground. There's going to be tie-ins and that kind of thing to go back around and do and finish up the services. And we're looking at, we can see the end of the tunnel on that one. As far as the water goes, now the city's drainage and roadway project, they're still projecting out to this fall before they're completed with that. So.
Hopefully we send Woodard a bid announcement on when we have a community road in Arco.
Okay, right.
They will absolutely be included on the list.
They sure will.
They've
They
done
sure
a
will.
real good job out there on this project.
Yeah. Okay, moving along, and we're still showing 21 out here, rehab and all that. And of course, you can see the grassing out there. It's getting back normal. One thing we talked about last time, there was some good questions asked about the disconnect panels and whatnot coming out of the wet well. And just to talk a little bit more about that, this project, there were some components of the project that were done in-house to try to save some costs by in-house forces. And this is one of those things right here. So this is a temporary configuration. And what they're going to do is they're going to take this down and install what's actually called an air gap assembly. But it's, and I've got a picture I can show you. But, so those conduits are actually going to get trimmed back. Those cables, everything will be dressed up, look a lot better than this is completely a temporary situation.
Well, those are all communications cables there, aren't they?
Straight up.
Those are like floats, correct?
Yeah, it's basically low voltage stuff.
I will
Yeah.
say, this station was brought online middle to end of June. Final completion on this in the storm event we had the other night. It cycled on and off like nothing was going on, even though we had 7 inches of rain. So never even called for the second pump at the same time. So
Wow.
station
That's
handled
great.
it very, very well. So
Sweeping some water.
Are we going to have a fence around this site at all, or what?
We didn't plan on.
there'll be fencing around the main electrical panels.
Just the panels in the back. and
Because
all.
I'm concerned right now, that's just target practice for somebody.
The bollards, we thought about redoing the bollards or something.
I understand the balance, but that, I mean, I mean, they, you know.
Right. Yeah,
All they gotta do is shoot it down one of those panels and then it's shut down.
What was there
We're gonna have-
previously
We're
was
gonna have that, we're gonna have that enclosed, right?
the back part where those panels are at.
Yeah.
That will be fenced in.
Yeah, this here, yes, that here, all our control panels and everything like that. These will come down a lot, actually a lot lower profile. Where, yeah, just put in. Yeah, these bollards are really the only thing kind of protecting that at this point.
Why did those have to be over there and those over there? I guess because of the small site.
The small site. and it's just-
Orientation of the pumps.
Yeah, the first exit out of the wet well, yeah, it's, I really believe the wet well was there first, and I think the road expanded to 4-lane, when they did Altamont. So it was probably not nicely tucked away off the edge of the road, and there was no issues and all that kind of thing, but the road grew.
Is the vent there on the right of way?
Sir?
Is the vent on the right of way?
It is, this is all, essentially, well, it's right away here, but this is.
Is that a,
power east.
is that a DOT road?
Not here.
That section is City of Brunswick.
City of Brunswick.
The closer you get to the spur, then it turns into DOT.
Up closer to the spur at the intersection. But you'll probably see this one fall off of next month's project report. Okay,
It
good
did real
stuff.
good, it did real good during the heavy rain.
It did fantastic during the rain event. We kept checking it because it seemed like it was doing way too good, but it was working just fine.
The pump station moved the water and the downstream gravity
And
swallowed it.
downstream gravity swallowed all of it, so that's a good sign.
It swallowed it fast enough, thank goodness. All right, Mr. Burrs, if you want to talk about Academy. you-
Sure. Good news down at Academy Creek. The filters, which we don't have the picture because they showed up yesterday, but the actual filters have been delivered. I've asked the contractor if they will be installed this week. He seems non-committal on having those installed and connected this week, but it was worth asking. They have, as you see there on the upper right hand, started doing the piping from the filter structure into the chlorine contact chamber for those tie-ins. And the picture down below that is also the receiving box that is going in. They have started hooking up bypass. I have not been down there this week, but they should be on bypass for the pre-aeration basin this week. They're basically going to intersect. You see in that second picture on the right there, there's some pipes that going vertical. There's the pumped influent water. So they're going to basically disconnect those pipes and tie them into that HDPE and bypass that structure so they can begin demolition of that structure. They unfortunately did have to pull the plug on the influent sections that had been done in advance of the storm. So they've got to go back and plug those new sections so they can come back in there and actually coat those manholes that were installed and do a little cleaning. But we wanted to make sure everything was as open as it could be for the storm event. And then they have been working diligently on some of the RAS interconnections. They've gotten one of the RAS lines piped in correctly now, and they're still working on the other ones. According to the contractor, they're actually running 2 to 3 weeks ahead of schedule at this point. Last week was a bit of a lost week with the storm, but still looks like we're moving forward, and the filters were actually delivered about a month ahead of schedule as well. So
All of the HDPE, that's just temporary. pipe.
that's bypass piping, yes, sir.
We don't have any exposed HDPE pipe.
No, sir. Everything on site is actually ductile.
Okay.
And did talk at GJWP in Savannah with the suppliers of all of our other major equipment and tried to get them to nail down delivery dates on those other pieces of equipment. And they all are reporting that everything's on schedule at this time. So still looking at the screens being delivered in September and odor control being delivered around Thanksgiving. So the screens being probably the number one item that staff is looking forward to getting online at this point, but those are still scheduled according to our Vulcan rep for delivery in September.
Okay, talk a little bit about 4105 and 4107 upgrades, which also includes the 4036 basin CIPP. A little confusing in there, but it's part of that project to accommodate the 4105, 4107 upgrades. The downstream gravity sewer, we're doing some CIPP lining of that. And
Notice to proceed on the lining section was actually last Tuesday, so they should be, if they haven't mobilized yet, they should be mobilizing for the clean and televising portion of that very soon.
correct, thank you, yeah. So clean and televising the first portion of that, Ms. Burke said. We'll give you submittals on liners, that type of thing, that we'll review for. Those are ordered. They'll have to sign those off. Okay, Coastal Coal Department, also known as Pump Station 4059. That project was part of a comprehensive agreement, but it was actually bid directly between, well, it was procured through the joint water process. Contractor selected, and then the applicant actually contracted directly with the low bidder on that project, and that is Southern Civil. Southern Civil is preparing to do a startup next week. So if you will look at the picture on the right, that is one of the air gap assemblies that we developed, designed in-house, the configuration of it. It's what we're including on pump stations now. What it does is it takes all the conduits from your transducer cables, your flow cables, your power cables to your pumps, all that. Formerly, these conduits would be routed almost directly into the control panel. And then some type of duct seal or something like that we put in there with the hopes of keeping that H2S gas from getting inside there. Duct seal doesn't always work correctly, so what we came about with was an air gap. Air gaps work pretty well. So what it does is it creates a break in the conduits. There's not a direct line of travel for those gases that then make it into the control panels and heat them up from the inside.
So does H2S come out in that
Yes.
box?
Which use out just atmosphere. So this type of assembly, what you'll see at Ford is that's the, when the temporary goes away, you'll see something very similar.
Have we patented that?
Have we patented it?
Not yet. We'll get Charlie working on that.
What's the, yeah, so at universities, university gets all the credit in the patent, right?
Yeah.
Does that work with us the same way? Anyway, so 59, we're looking for a startup there. Once that's done, once that project's over, that'll conclude our comprehensive agreement with Coastal Club. That will be finished. Yeah. Bergen Woods Offsite Force Main, another comprehensive agreement with a private developer. Bergen Woods off of the spur. Apartment complex transformed into a townhome complex. Individually now, their concept that they're moving forward with is not individually owned and whatnot units, or one owner still, one large parcel. So we're actually back to a master meter on that project. Working through the, waiting to receive the design change back from them. Anyway, waiting also to get their capital fees so that we can execute the contract and move forward with our folks.
My understanding is that we should be receiving those this week.
Okay, cool. Can't wait to get that force main underway. Good news on that one, seeing the supply chain issues as soon as the board voted to approve or award this contract. We talked with the contractor and they agreed, having seen it was pretty official. They went ahead and ordered materials. 8-week lead time on materials, so we're looking at, hopefully it's going to time out just right. Materials to arrive in the next couple of weeks, and they'll be hit the ground running. So this project is connected also to another project we'll touch on. It's in the list, 4116 pump station upgrade at the safety complex. Nothing new to report yet from operations on the CPOM's East Waterline rehabs. still on our radar for sure. Oak Grove Forest Main, a little more movement on that. The developer's still intent on doing the development on Oak Grove Island. Part of their decision-making is getting pricing on this force main installation. So they've really put the pedal down to get that one bid out. It's part of the comprehensive agreement. Joint Water actually bids that out. So the engineer record had originally designed it as a force main and pump stations. It's actually just a force main that is part of the comprehensive agreement. So they're deleting pump station parts, sheets, and whatever else out of there. We're waiting to receive those final bid document sheets and we'll bid documents out with that. They're working with the crew through it. 2002 force main currently on hold, pending a better time to do the project.
Pending
Not
November.
summertime.
That's a fall project, right?
That's a fall following Florida Georgia
Is
weekend.
that on Arnold Road?
Sir?
Is that on, that's not?
That's on Arnold Road, yes, sir. And right now, it'd be very difficult to be in there working.
So the duration of that one, once we start, is that
60 days.
okay?
1,300 feet of pipe. It's probably going to be slow when we get in there digging because there's a lot of stuff in the ground right there. But 60 days is what we're anticipating for completion there.
It's gonna be in the center of the road?
No, sir. The current one's in the center of the road, and that's why we're trying to get it moved. Because when it has had issues in the past, we have to shut down all of Arnold Road to work on it.
Okay. Talked about ARCO a little bit earlier. That's at EPD for approval. Same.
And we actually, my understanding, we have reconfigured ARCO to where we no longer are going to require permanent easements. We may require a few temporary construction easements, but no easement required for the permanent installation on ARCO.
Was able to find Community Road still. Going to take a few easements on that one that are being worked on right now, but it's also at EPD for review. We don't expect any issues from EPD, but that's the obligatory step we have to do with them. Okay, Galvanized Replacements.
They are currently working on Postel Drive. They got the mains installed and then had a little bit of a delay getting tapping saddles, but we have since got tapping saddles, so we can start dropping services on Postel. And we just received the completed survey of Wesley Oaks Circle, and that will be the next area of galvanized that will be replaced.
Get down here closer to the list. Pump Station 4116 Rehab, that's at the safety complex. Things are moving pretty quickly out there. This picture was taken last week, but since then, the contractor has the precast structures on site, and they expect to be out of the ground with precast tomorrow. So they're starting to dewater and whatnot out there, actually doing excavation. So, and again, they're going to do everything they can until they hit a stop or whatever with material issues. They expect probably the same types of issues that they're experiencing with 4059, which is a similar sized station. The station does serve the whole safety complex. During the most recent partial activation of the EOC, Glynn County EOC, 4116 held up. Thank goodness it was just partial activation. And anyway, that's a shot of the to the left of the new animal control facility going in and out there. We're being sold in August. I assume the residents will probably move in. It'll be this fall. Not sure it'll be this fall. All right, meter replacements. I'll let Mr. Burrows cover.
Meter replacements are ongoing. We had, like we've talked about, we've moved forward with the full auditing of our system to determine all of the necessary as needed items and potentially get pricing from our supplier and contractor with more official quantities. We have installed over 4,000 meters to date, and we are currently working with the hospital on replacing their meters. They are one of our larger customers and certainly cannot be without water at any time. So we will coordinate those large meter replacements with them. So those meters, to my understanding, have been delivered. We're just going to get that coordinated, and luckily we have a member of our commission that can help us out with coordinating all that. But that project is moving along. We have about 900 meters to date that have been in the ground for 15 years, and we've got to go dig them up and find them because they've been reading just fine, but we can't find the box right now. So staff's going out there with a metal detector and a probe rod trying to locate meters at this point. But we are working through that process right now. We do have,
In the case of a customer needs to access the meter base or the meter box, to put a cutoff on there or something like that, and they can't find it.
we do, if people call us and they are having issues finding their meter location, we will go out and locate it for them. Depending on the reason for the need for locating it, it may not be same-day service, but we will go out and locate meters for them. A lot of them, our staff is familiar with where they are already, so it's not a tedious process to find them. And of course, you can always go find the W in the concrete to kind of give you a little bit of a heads up. So we do several of those a year where people are trying to find their meter either because they want to check they have a leak or, like you said, install a cutoff on their side. Sometimes even our local contractors have issues finding them because meters go in the ground. We read them with radios, and over time, landscaping occurs, and you've got 8 or 10 inches of material on top of the meter box. So
that kind of brings up a point to showcase really on the mapping side of stuff, which is in planning and construction. A great benefit of this meter project is every one of these meters is being survey grade GPS'd, and you can see the improvement over time.
the map has moved.
Yeah, so we have colors, and I can pull up and show you, but we call them Orions because they were kind of map grade, we call it. The meter might be out in the street, but it shows on top of the house. I mean, it's that, you're lucky if you get 30 feet of accuracy sometimes with those guys. You're seeing those meters move into the streets in the place, and they turn pink as they get accurized with the survey grade.
They'll be sub-meter grade accuracy.
Yeah, certainly within a foot or two, kick the mulch off or whatever it is, or rubber rod, whatever it is, easier to find, much easier to find. So that project's helping our mapping out tremendously as it's moving through the project. So we're grateful for that. All right, I think that is the last project in the picture report.
And we'll say if you look at the earned value report that we do each month, since we did just finish up a fiscal year, we dropped off all the completed projects. So the list is shorter. And as the new projects for next fiscal year are added and money is spent on those, they will be added to this list as well. So there you'll see some slight changes because we dropped about 8 projects off the list from the last period. Still doing a little behind schedule, but doing well on cost at this point. And we have a couple of the ones that seem to be the most behind that are kicking off right now. So moving along very well there.
Anybody getting caught up, need to have some more projects.
We've got 10, I believe it is, added to the project list July 1st, and we're working through those. And we're also working with our procurement staff. We are going to be hosting what we're calling a reverse trade show for our projects for the next year. Get our vendors and contractors the opportunity to see what we have planned and show. We'll have some preliminary scope information for them, mapping of what's going on where they can ask the individual project managers questions. It's good for our vendors because they can kind of plan their year out and expect when things will come out. And it's good for our staff because we'll be set on some sort of a schedule of when they expect to have these things come out. So it'll be good both ways. I talked to several people at the conference this week that thought that was a great step for us to take and are looking forward to taking part in that with us.
Can I have a motion for us to go in executive session to discuss property?
Move to go to executive session to discuss property.
All in favor? Motion carries. Do we need to go in that room? favor? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Adjourn. Good.